Welcome to the Circular Strategies Podcast, conversing with those inspired to lead, drive, and innovate in the circular economy, discussing a wide array of topics, including the opportunities and challenges encountered by these entrepreneurs and leaders and change agents solving these complex problems. Today, we are very fortunate to have just such a leader. Mollie Hughes is a trailblazer in the world of green marketing innovation. Mollie is passionate about navigating sustainability regulations, diving deep into the rules of what businesses can and cannot say when it comes to sustainability claims. Essentially, she geeks out on the tedious stuff so you don't have to. As the founder of Softly Solutions, Mollie's developed easy-to-use tech tools that save businesses hours of research so that they can avoid greenwashing, understand what their competitors are doing in the market, and confidently go green without risk. Mollie holds an executive MBA from Quantic with a specialization in business law. She is an expert in green marketing compliance and is known for her innate ability to simplify the complex. She is the circular credibility expert, the CEO of Softly Solutions. Welcome, Mollie Hughes. Well, welcome, Mollie, to the Circular Strategies Podcast. We're so happy to have you here and really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much, Bob. Happy to be here.
Before we start talking about Softly Solutions, maybe you could introduce the audience to you and Softly kind of combined.
Yeah, I'd love to. So like Bob said, my name is Mollie Hughes. I am the co-founder and the CEO of Softly Solutions. And we're a technology company, and we have developed a green claim navigator. We also have another tool called ChatESG. And what we do is we equip businesses, including manufacturers, with the information they need to avoid greenwashing risks and really gain a competitive edge. And we reduce that time it takes to research sustainability claims really from hours to minutes. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. If anybody here is listening and you're like, hey, I'm a product developer, I'm in engineering, in manufacturing, and we don't really have to deal with greenwashing, I encourage you to keep listening because I think you're going to find out that it is applicable to you as we speak through this and talk through it.
You know, as we dive into the benefits and challenges of manufacturing moving toward more circular and sustainable products, why is this such a timely topic, and what problem does Softly solve?
Such a good question. And it is a timely topic because what we're seeing is an increase in consumer demand for more sustainable and circular products. Yet when these products are ready to enter the market, we're finding they don't meet the requirements or the laws for the companies to actually make the product claims that they want to make. So what we're seeing is there's a lot of surveys and studies showing that there's over 70% of shoppers say that the sustainability claims on the product that they're the ones that are kind of deciding. 70% of them are saying, hey, we want to buy a product that has an impact, that means something to me. And this is what's putting a lot of pressure on the manufacturers. So as a result, these businesses are responding, right? And over 3/4 of all the new products that come to market now do make a sustainability claims. So these are claims that you're familiar with, like recyclable or made with renewable materials. Maybe it's biodegradable, low carbon footprint. There's a huge list of claims that can be made. But where the problem arises is that over half of these sustainability claims are not compliant to the new laws. So this is super frustrating to consumers because it's misleading. It's also causing some major problems for manufacturers, including the product developers and the marketers of the products.
How does Softly Solutions interact? Maybe giving us an example where there's been a disconnect between the product development and understanding the green marketing laws, and then how softly kind of engages with that challenge.
What we found is there's a disconnect between product development and understanding the green marketing laws. But that disconnect can be really costly. And that's where the problem comes in. There's a really interesting case with the makers of the coffee pods, Keurig Green Mountain, and it cost them over $15 million in lawsuit payments alone. So what happened is that Keurig was getting a lot of flack from their consumers regarding their single-use coffee pods. So anything, single use is considered wasteful and problematic to the eco-conscious consumer. So Keurig set out to make their single-use K-pods recyclable. So they did just that. They spent a ton of money changing their materials and processes to use recyclable polypropylene, number 5 plastic. It's a very widely recyclable plastic, and it's proven for food grade use. And then they ended up initiating this really costly marketing campaign touting their new recyclable K-cup pods. And the consumers responded with lots of K-cups going into those recycling bins. This is where the problem really starts, because it came to light that the pods weren't actually getting recycled, even though the consumers thought that they were. Come to find out, the coffee pods were actually too small, and essentially they were falling through the cracks of the recycling facilities, and they were going just straight to the landfill. So it's a case where product development didn't have all the information they needed. And on top of that, there were specific regulations concerning this. So I'll tell you just a little bit about those regulations, because that's really what caused the lawsuit. So in the FTC Green Guides, which regulate what a marketer can and cannot say about the sustainability of a product, it very clearly states that that first of all, you shouldn't mislead a consumer in order to, say that a product is recyclable, but it also has to be easily recyclable by 60% of the people that you're marketing that product to. So in this case, it was, these pods weren't getting recycled. So it was also not only misleading, it was also against this regulation. So this was a company, Keurig, that seemed to be doing everything right. They had good intentions, but not everyone involved in that process knew the laws. And there have been numerous lawsuits in response to this that cost Keurig $15 million. About $10 million in a class action lawsuit in the United States, another $3 million in Canada, and then another couple million in a recent SEC suit.
How would Softly Solutions, ChatESG help solve that, and how would your customers interact with that to prevent that kind of exposure and fulfill the good intent that was missed?
So the way that our customers use our tool is, first of all, it's used by numerous departments to make sure that everybody has that same information. So it could be used, by a product development team, the engineering team, eventually, if it's a manufacturer that actually markets their own products, also that marketing team. And then actually anybody else that kind of touches that product development in between, at least having some sort of visibility to it, including like regulatory compliance, legal, those people as well. So the way that it works is you go onto our site, and it's web-based. And there's 3 things you have to put in. What is the product claim you want to make about a product? And that's how it usually starts. Usually you have upper management saying, hey, make sure that this product that we're developing is, let's say, recyclable. You say what industry, you're making the product for, and then where you're planning to sell it. If it's worldwide, United States, only a certain state. And then it's going to immediately populate all the information you need to know about marketing that claim. So ultimately it's about the end marketing, but really everybody along the way needs to know it. So when it gets marketed, they have that information.
That sounds really innovative. How does it change the status quo?
It brings the information. There used to be a person a lot of times in product development that is spending all this time doing this research. What kind of plastic do I need to use? They still might have to do that part, but what they can get from us is, first of all, what are the laws having to do with marketing the product using that claim. What are kind of special considerations you need to know about? For example, right now, there are no laws having to do with extended producer responsibility of products. And if anybody's familiar with that, it's causing a lot of heartburn with companies, these EPR laws, where it actually says, hey, they need to be made in a certain way. Otherwise, you have to pay when that consumer disposes of that product. We don't have any federal EPR laws, but there's a whole bunch of state EPR laws, such as with batteries. Hey, how do you get rid of this battery at end of life? If it doesn't meet these requirements, you as a manufacturer have to pay for that. That's one thing that our platform does. We're going to give you all those regulations. We're going to tell you which ones are most stringent and make sure that they're the most up to date. There's a lot of other things, but that's one thing right there to get everybody started.
And the kind of impact this makes for the customer, it has to be more significant than just being able to avoid an issue. It must really inform design. It must inform their product development. Have you seen it used that way?
Well, it certainly should do that. We're new to the market, so that is the intention of this platform. It kind of starts with right now, hey, we're marketing this product. What do I need to know? And then now all of a sudden they're finding, hey, 50% of the products that we thought we could make this claim about, actually legally, we can't make the claim. So now we have to figure out, hey, how do we go back to the source to make sure that product development, engineering, they know what they're dealing with to be able to make that claim at the end. So we're not in a situation where they don't know this information. So we're new to market, but that is exactly, the intent of it and how it's being used. It's really across all these multiple divisions, so they all have that same information.
What's been the most surprising thing so far as you're early in the market, but what surprised you?
What surprised me internally with the businesses is how siloed they are. How everybody loves to say, hey, we work not in these silos where every division is separate, but they still do in a lot of cases. And I think that's what's been most surprising, that we have to go into a company and we have to, first of all, we'll maybe do a demo with the sustainability manager. And then they'll say, hey, we've got other people that need to see this. We'll start with our marketing team. So then we go there. Then we have to go to the next team, then the next team. And then they have to kind of decide, oh, geez, who's going to pay for it? What department does this fall under? So that's really probably been the biggest surprise in this day and age, that everybody's kind of still working in silos.
Has there been a significant result from one of those, in maybe one of your installations, that impacted those silos and improved things from a speed or efficiency standpoint?
Yeah, it's been really kind of fun working with some of these companies, especially the early adopters, because we actually said, hey, if you want to work with us, we want to make sure that we're learning from your processes as well. So we put in place either a biweekly or a monthly meeting where we're bringing everybody together. And it's funny, at the very beginning, everybody's like, oh, who wants another meeting, right? But then all of a sudden they realize that, hey, now we're learning the right way to use this tool that can bring everybody together. We can also work very quickly, being an early stage company, and make sure that we're developing to their needs as we go. So we've had some really, really good results where people are saying, hey, this is going to improve our process, our time from product development to market even, and really make it where our products are more compliant at the end. So we're not looking at that 50% are not compliant to what they're supposed to be saying. So we don't have any numbers on that yet, but we're really excited as we measure those.
Is there a short list of the problems Softly solves for a team?
So we have kind of 5 main quadrants that we work on. I kind of already told you about the regulations, but kind of think the next step after regulations is, okay, now I decide I want to make this recyclable claim. What do I need to validate it? I'm going to make this claim. I need validation. So one part of our platform also gives you all the resources and certifications we say? What are potential standards that you need to know about for that claim? The next one has to do with risk. You say you want to make a recyclable claim, but sometimes it can be risky, or maybe it's not, and you can look into it and see in your actual industry, have companies gotten in hot water such as Keurig? That's not the only case. There's lots and lots of them out there that we can learn from. So those are kind of four sections. But then the fifth is a competitive analysis. So before you even decide you're going to make a claim about your product, what are your competitors saying? What do I need to say to stay or be competitive? If I'm selling, it's going to make up something, I'm selling a cell phone case. And I realize that all of my competitors are saying that theirs is made of a vegan material and it's organic and it's, maybe made in the USA, let's say. We'll give you that information. So now you know that. So you go into it saying, hey, if I'm going to develop this to be competitive, I probably need to do these things. But also, what could I do that's maybe a differentiator? So we'll tell you what the least utilized claims in your industry and product category are as well. So maybe you can build your product based on that information.
That's a very substantial list. And I wonder, as you look at your competitive market, what would be the key differentiators in your product compared to some of the ones that maybe offer things similar or solve similar problems?
So we're a little bit different in the market. Most people rely on their legal teams for this kind of information. But we found that, first of all, a lot of legal teams they're swamped. They don't have the time to deal with marketers that say, hey, I want to make this claim, and then be told that they can't make it. Secondly, they don't necessarily deal only in sustainability and circularity related claims. And that's what our specialty is. So we know this market a lot of times even better than the attorneys because they're dealing with lots of issues. They're dealing with the contracts and other things as well. The other really differentiator and thing that makes us stand out is a lot of smaller and mid-sized companies, they can't afford these big legal teams. This is a way that they can get this information, get it across their organization very quickly, and then bring it to their legal team and say, hey, this is what we've done. This is how we validated it. Now approve it.
How's it being received and utilized? Are you seeing what you expected?
We are. One thing I think we didn't expect, and it's pretty cool, is, I told you about that competitive section that we have. So with this section, we have a database of about 3 million consumer products. So what we know about these consumer products is, first of all, what the product is, what industry they're in, the name of the brand. We know what they're saying about their product. So they're saying it's natural, it's clean, it's recyclable, it's made in the USA, what claims they're making. We also know what certifications they have. So we knew that it would be useful for the marketer. We knew it would be useful in product development. What we didn't realize is sales teams are finding it useful. So they're going out, they want to sell, their product, especially in the manufacturing space. So they want to sell their product. They can now go there and say, hey, these are, this is what it gives the sales team of whoever they're selling to an extra edge. It's almost a value add. So they run a report, they give it to that other sales team, and they're saying, hey, this is what your competitors or what other people are doing in your market. So we didn't expect that. And that's been really fun for us.
Oh, it sounds like it. What do you think people usually or easily miss with regard to what you're offering to the market and its value in helping them attract customers to their business?
So I'll tell you what I think they usually miss, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with attracting customers, but I think what people don't realize until they start looking into our platform is how much there is to it that maybe they don't know. There are 25 countries at least changed their regulations last year in green marketing alone. And marketers need to know these laws. Like I said, manufacturers, engineering, product developers, they need to know these laws. And there's been 500 new sustainability related regulations added within the last year. So keeping up with those is nearly impossible. And I think until you actually see it, you don't realize how much it is. So that's another thing our platform does is we will send, if you know that's something that a claim you're making, we will send notifications saying, hey, something changed. You got to be aware of this.
For a global company, that's probably a pretty important notice to get, I would think. Otherwise, there's a lot of people having to hang on, having to find it, communicate to a lot of people. That's interesting. What's challenging you guys right now? What's the biggest challenge you guys are contending with?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest challenge right now are those silos, and kind of trying to decide who wants to own this ultimately.
Does that mean you have multiple decision makers about your product and they have different needs and you're speaking to a whole lot of different people? How are you overcoming that?
You need to have a leader. You need to have somebody who's actually driving it from the inside. Tends to be a sustainability manager, but then now you have a different. We have a lot going on in our country right now, having to do with regulations changing, with ESG, with even sustainability, climate. So I think they're also trying to navigate that. Really, I think our platform is what they need to be able to more easily navigate it. But when you're in the midst of everything, the last thing you're looking at is buying something new.
Do you have any interesting projects in the pipeline that you're at liberty of talking about right now from your learning and from your early experience that you're excited about and are willing to share or should share?
So one thing with really what we have right now is an intelligence platform. We're giving you all this information so you can make a sound decision. And, people want things even easier sometimes, Bob. They're like, we don't just want it. We like this information. We think it's good. But really what we want you to do is just take our stuff and tell us if it's okay or not. So we are developing things. In this case, we're going to use some AI tools where you can actually say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is the validations I have. Is it compliant? So that's kind of in our pipeline, and we're super excited about that. And we put it in a very conversational fashion. So kind of like if any of you are users of ChatGPT or any AI tool, you type in your question, you get the answer. And so we're actually adding a lot of that conversation ability to our platform right now.
You're very passionate about what you're all doing. What's been most rewarding so far?
I'll tell you how we kind of started and then how we get to where we're at. So my co-founder and I both just had an interest in sustainability. We had families. We wanted to make sure we weren't bringing toxic chemicals into our house. We wanted to do good things for the planet. It was just really a personal, something that we were interested in. And we were getting our MBAs. And as part of our capstone project, we thought, okay, let's do something having to do that, with it, we'll learn something. So we ended up developing this tool and everybody can get it free. It's on the Google Chrome store and it doesn't cost anything. It's a browser extension. It's called Softly. And what it does is we developed this as part of our capstone. You can say what's important to you in buying a product. And it will work when you're shopping on Amazon, and it will give you suggested swaps. So these are products that are similar to whatever you're looking for, but they meet your values. So if I type in that, hey, I want recyclable products only, or ones made with renewable energy or renewable materials, that will come up. So that was kind of our genesis. That's how everything started. And then we realized that, hey, but 50% of these claims are not even truthful. So now we got this big problem where consumers are getting wrong information and started kind of drilling down into it to figure out why. And that's been the most fulfilling, is that we're still sticking with our original goal which was to make it easier for consumers to find more sustainable products. And the only way we can do that is by getting to the core and making sure that they really are what they say they are.
That's a pretty interesting journey. Before I ask my last question, is there any question I should have asked that I didn't that you'd like to share with us?
You're a manufacturer, work in circularity. And I don't know if it's something you should have asked me, but I think it's just something I kind of want to ask you is what are the challenges as a manufacturer that you guys face in making sure that you're meeting the needs of your customers and making sure that they're, in a circular, something that's lending to a circular economy?
For us, the challenge, I think, more than anything, is getting the mindsets of the organization right to gain the insights from our customers as to what they need. And then recognizing that the insights are going to have a wide distribution, a lot of variations of it, and then coalescing all of that input into a solid strategy that's meaningful to a large percentage of the customers, and then figuring out how to deal with the exceptions. That's the bigger challenge when you don't have a homogeneous customer base. You're dealing with a lot of different kinds of companies. The challenge gets a little bit bigger, and the mindset's a big part of that because you really do have to bring a lot of curiosity to the conversations. And that's kind of a whole different approach to interacting with the client than a sales customer relationship. It is significantly more a partnership. And it takes time for that to occur. There's so many different aspects of that. That's a real high level kind of answer. And when you dig down into the specifics of it, it's going to be a little different depending who you're talking to and what they're trying to achieve. And then how do you aggregate all of that into a strategy? It's a whole lot of secret sauce stuff there that takes time to put together. I hope did that answer your question?
It does. It does. But you know what? I think it's a universal challenge. I think it's probably unique to you in a way, but I think it's kind of what I was talking about too, that you're trying to bring all these minds together working on the same goal. Who's going to own it? How do you get that point across? I think your point about curiosity, is a good one. Changing the way people did things before to a new process is not easy, is it?
No, it's not. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with really wanting to help. So what's your intent as opposed to what you're trying to achieve? Which one leads? You're trying to do both, but which one's really motivating the conversation? Well, thank you for that question. I'll ask my last one. If you were to look into the crystal ball and tell us what you see coming, what it means, and what you would use a magic wand to get done first.
Ultimately, what we want to do is what we want to solve for is to really make sure that the consumer of products, so us as shoppers, have access to products that are good for us, right? And they're good for the family, they're good for the planet. So, as a shopper, we have to have that confidence that when we're reading a product label, that those good claims about the product are truthful and that they're really what they say they are. So really, that's what it's all about for us. So really, that magic wand really is what we're providing at Softly. It's that easy way to be able to do that, to simplify that process for manufacturers, for brands. And then really, as a result, the consumers are going to benefit from it.
I think that goes to your question you asked of me for us, in that we don't manufacture anything either. We manufacture some products, but really what we do is service the customer and help them fulfill their impact, their intent, and we help enable that as well. And so we're very much similar in that regard. We have one product line, but it's very much in line with circular. We have a lot of data to put to it and things to kind of substantiate it, but it's already kind of in that direction. The rest of our business is really about enabling people to achieve the results they're trying to get, much like Softly. So, Mollie, we couldn't appreciate you being here more. Thank you for taking the time. It was wonderful conversation with you.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much. I do want to extend an offer to your listeners. If anybody that's listening wants to book a demo of our tool, we will provide 80% off for you to be able to try it. We also do what's called green risk reports, where it's kind of like a step into it, where we'll take a look at a product or your business or a claim that you're making and really do a deep dive for you. So we'd provide that if you'd rather have that. So we'd love to work with any businesses that are listening today and really try to get rid of that unintentional greenwashing. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.